I'm Rosemary Mbabazi, the High Commissioner of Rwanda, accredited to Ghana, but also accredited to Liberia, Sierra Leone, Cote d'Ivoire, Benin, and Togo, but I'm based in Accra. Today's theme, I'll be talking about Africa beyond aid, and I think we're talking about talent and brain drain. It is very important and very timely and very necessary to discuss about Africa beyond aid. But allow me to humbly request that we go beyond, push a little bit further, the discussions one step further beyond, because beyond aid is not the destination, but wealth is. How do we create wealth on the continent? Not just wealth in GDP numbers, but in dignity. In Rwanda, we call it agaciro, dignity. Not GDP in numbers just to say this is how much, but how does it translate in the daily lives of our communities? We've been talking about communities. And in Africa, and how do we find these as a solution, providing solutions for African challenges? That is the Africa I want and must build now. Let me begin with Rwanda's journey. A journey marked not just by recovery, but by reimagination. We try to reimagine our country. In 1994, that is 31 years ago, Rwanda stood at the edge of collapse. The genocide against the Tutsi had decimated our community, our population, destroyed our institutions, and shattered our economy. We were left dependent on support on every aspect because we were in ashes. But from those ashes, a new vision emerged, not one of dependency, but one of determination, a commitment not just to survive, but to thrive. Under the leadership of President Paul Kagame, and guided by the strategic visions such as the Vision 2020 and now Vision 2050, Rwanda made a deliberate choice to become a self-reliant, knowledge-driven economy and inclusive economy. We made policies and choices that are rooted on ownership, accountability, and the unwavering belief that Rwandans must lead their development. Aid was never rejected, but it was never romanticized either. We used aid as a lever or to leverage on to build what truly matters: strong institutions, infrastructure, education, and health systems. Currently, 90% or 95% of our population are covered by insurance, medical insurance, which is called Mutuelle de Santé, where government contributes in the insurance over every citizen. So over 95% of our citizens have medical insurance, and this covers now, it is extended to other non-communicable diseases that they can be tested and also treated. Before it was less, and as we get resources, we keep on increasing to more and more coverage. Today, I can proudly say that Rwanda's finances, more than 63% of our population comes from domestic revenue. And previously, it was the reverse. Majority of our budget was coming supported by foreign aid, and that was over 70% of the budget. But now it is the reverse. Over 63% of our budget are domestically generated revenue. The progress has come through reforms in tax collection, investment in digital public services, and zero tolerance to corruption. But even more importantly, we have invested in our people. From universal health care coverage to free basic education, from women's empowerment to youth innovation hubs, all our focus has been clear. Citizens are the center of our prosperity and the cornerstone of our prosperity. Rwanda's story is not exceptional. It can happen anywhere else. Because the question today is not whether Africa can thrive without aid. The real question is whether Africa can afford to build wealth. Aid can offer support, yes, but cannot give us dignity, as I mentioned earlier. It cannot substitute for ambitions. It cannot build our roads, innovate our technology, or employ our young people that we kept on talking about at a larger scale. Therefore, we must now shift the focus. Previous speakers talked about the mindset shift that comes from being beneficiaries to being partners. You know, whoever feeds you controls you. One of the legends talked about that. From beneficiaries to partners, from handouts to investment, how can we put policies in place that can attract FDI, the foreign direct investment, and we support our local investors rather than waiting for the handouts? From dependency to dignity. Africa is not poor. We always believe that Africa is poor. We are not. Africa is rich in its people, in its resources, in its culture and potential. What we need is unity, coordination, and vision with shared values. That's why the initiatives like Africa Continental Free Trade Area, the CFTA, which is hosted here in Ghana, is very critical. They are not just trade agreements, they are pathways to shared wealth. Rwanda has championed such efforts not just in policy, but in practice. We trade with our neighbors, we co-invest in regional infrastructure, we co-create innovation ecosystem. And globally, we engage with partners not as passive recipients, but as equals. Our partnership with institutions, all the institutions that support in development agenda, we all build this in mutual benefit and clear returns for Rwandans, for Africans, and for the world. To the young people in this room today, you are not the leaders of tomorrow. You are the leaders of the present, that is today. Do not define yourselves by what the world thinks Africa looks and lacks. Define yourselves by what you can build, and that's the Africa we share. Be the generation that invents, that exports, that builds brands, that solves water scarcity, they talked about it earlier, reimagines agriculture, and rectifies our future. Wealth is not a Western idea. It is an African right. Let us claim it. Let me close this by stating a statement that Rwanda's story is far from complete. We are not yet there. We still have challenges, but we are no longer asking if we can rise. We are deciding how we can lead. Africa does not just need to survive without aid. Africa must thrive with wealth, with wisdom and unity. So let us rise, not as a continent in waiting, but as a continent in action. Not just beyond aid, but beyond limitations. Speaking at the African Leadership Forum in August 2018 on financing Africa's transformation, President Paul Kagame emphasized the point that what we lack on the continent is a renewal of mindset. This remains true today as it was then. Let me therefore leave you with these words to ponder or to think about. I wish to quote what he said by then, 2018. I open quote, I would rather argue that we need to mobilize the right mindset rather than more funding. After all, in Africa, we have everything we need. In real terms, whatever is lacking, we have. The means to acquire is what we need. And yet, we remain mentally mad and married to the idea that nothing can get moving without external financing. Africa, we are capable, and we should have confidence in ourselves. When we have faith, we can make it work. It starts with the small initiative that we do within our communities, and they always say it starts with the mind. And when we start with the end in mind, it's very possible. You keep on imagining the future without all this. If we just put our efforts with the young people, they talked about earlier that most young people are talking about flying elsewhere out of the continent. But I remember my president in his early 30s, he was at a training course in some of the developed countries. When he heard about the liberation, he left the school and came back to liberate his country. Sometimes I discuss my previous work. I was a minister in charge of youth. And I would always ask the young people, supposing you are the one who was there in that dream place, would you come back to be in war, liberation struggles, that you are even not guaranteed of your future and your life the next day? Would you? And they keep on thinking about. about it. And no one is going to do what you're supposed to do. And no aid is going to do what, as Africans, we should do. It is our responsibility, and the action is now, because tomorrow you will be the senior elders, as we saw, and other young people will be asking you, what did you do at your time? We not say we are looking at the elders. The elders will be you by then. I thank you once again for attention and for the time.